1 year away from the 2026 Winter Olympics, the resort town of Cortina d'Ampezzo is a hive of construction. The northern Italian city will be co-hosting the games along with Milan, and part of their $3.5 billion construction budget, according to Reuters News, is a new sliding center where athletes can compete in bobsled, skeleton, and luge events. Revamping an existing site for this is controversial. Some critics say there aren't a lot of people who compete in these sports, maybe as compared with skiing or ice skating, for instance, so it won't be worth the $120 million cost to rebuild and manage a venue for sliding events. There are also concerns about whether it'll be ready for test runs this March when athletes can get on the track for the first time. But supporters still think it should be here in Italy as opposed to existing sliding tracks in neighboring countries. One reason is that the track will be named for an Italian bobsledder who won 2 silver medals at Cortina's last Winter Olympics. Those were in 1956. Thank you for taking a few minutes to watch the world from A to Z. I'm your host, Carl Azuz. I'm happy to see you and hope you're doing well. Quick follow-up to a story we covered in detail yesterday. The United States government has temporarily delayed putting tariffs or taxes of 25% on goods imported from Mexico. They were supposed to take effect Tuesday, but before that deadline, both governments announced that Mexico would send 10,000 of its National Guard troops to the country's shared border. U.S. President Donald Trump said they'd work to stop the flow of illegal drugs and illegal immigration into the U.S. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said the U.S. would work to stop the flow of high-powered weapons into Mexico. The two countries plan to continue their negotiations for the next month. And yesterday afternoon, Canada's government also announced a 30-day delay, at least, on the tariffs the U.S. had planned for its northern neighbor. Border security, drugs, and crime also factor into their negotiations. American taxes of 10% were still planned on Chinese goods when we produced this show, but those two countries may be negotiating as well. Next, increased alertness, better brain function, better mood. These are some of the plus sides of consuming caffeine. On the other hand, trouble sleeping, increased anxiety, and potential heart trouble can be some cons. Health experts don't have all the answers on how caffeine affects teenagers, but they say that when it comes to drinks, preteens should have at least 60 fluid ounces daily, teens should have 88 fluid ounces, and none of them should contain caffeine, at least regularly.
The idea is nothing new. Concern over caffeine and added sugars in drinks has been around for a while, but some of the top health organizations have released new guidelines aimed at helping children and teens be healthier.
The reality is there's a lot of items, a lot of beverages out there, like a lot of things, are promoted as healthy, and there's no evidence that they are.
Dr. Stephen Cook with Nationwide Children's Hospital says the hope is that with these well-known organizations joining together to greenlight new beverage recommendations, it'll make it less confusing and therefore easier to know what to allow and what to avoid. The guidelines say those ages 5 through 18 should drink plain water and plain pasteurized milk daily, the amount of which depends on factors like age, size, and physical activity. They should avoid drinks with caffeine and other stimulants, sugared beverages, and those with non-sugar sweeteners as well. The experts say to also limit 100% juice.
We don't want to create a restrictive type of response to this, like you never can have this. It's a once in a while type of opportunity, and once in a while isn't one a day per se. Maybe it's once a week or once every other week.
I'm Mandy Gaither.
Word and knowledge. Eduardo Saverin co-founded what social media site in 2004? YouTube, Snapchat, Facebook, MySpace. While he was at Harvard University with Mark Zuckerberg, Eduardo Saverin helped develop the Facebook.
On this date in world history. It was on February 4th, 2004 that the Facebook was launched. It initially allowed Harvard students to post pictures and information about themselves, like the clubs they were in. Later renamed Facebook, it grew to become the most widely used social media site on Earth. February 4th, 1945 saw the beginning of the Yalta Conference during World War II. It brought together U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin. Their goal? To discuss what would happen in Europe after the forthcoming defeat of Nazi Germany. Exactly 4 years before that, in 1941, the United Service Organizations, or USO, was born. Its goals included improving morale for members of the American military by providing entertainment and activity for troops serving away from home. And on this date in 1789, it was unanimous. American electors cast their votes for George Washington to become the first leader of the United States. He is the only president ever to receive all of the votes from the Electoral College, and he did it again in 1792.
Where in the world? A landlocked country in northern Asia, this is one of the least densely populated nations on Earth. It gained its independence from China in the early 1900s. In fact, China and Russia are the only two countries that border this one. This is Mongolia, a nation of just over 3.2 million people.
The Mongolian steppes, home to nomadic herders of centuries ago, people who moved with the seasons, following their grazing herds and living off the land. And that lifestyle is not a thing of the past. A quarter of Mongolia's population still follows the nomadic tradition today. The average Mongolian lives far away from their neighbor.
It's mostly old people who remain here. It is difficult to see friends and other young people leaving for the city.
Leaving to go to school. Nomadic children must move to cities and often choose to stay there as adults. There is a deep cultural and locational divide between those who stay in the steppes and those who live in the city. But Mongolia is changing with time, and the great divide between the nomadic herder and the city dweller is shrinking. Bat Erdene Kulan was one of those children who chose to stay in the city, but she visits the steppes often to stay connected with her family. Her parents say it was painful to see her move away, but worth it.
I wanted my kids to achieve what I didn't, to receive a proper education.
Kulan still lives in the city, but a new movement is sending other city dwellers, tired of the hustle and bustle, into the countryside.
On Facebook, I posted that I want to go to the countryside, but I'm afraid. So is there anyone who wants to move with me out of Ulaanbaatar? And then there were about 400 people who wanted to join me, and we decided to make a small village, brand new village in the countryside.
Of course, this new life comes with its own struggles.
The cultural differences are the most difficult. It's like moving to a foreign country. The second difficult thing is to be dependent on nature.
But it looks like they're ready for the challenge of bringing a new way of life to the old traditions of the Mongolian steppes.
The best place to request a mention here is at our website, worldatoz.org, from the Request a Shoutout button. That's what Mrs. Moss did. She and her students are the Patriots of Fort Dorchester High School. It's in North Charleston, South Carolina. Next door in the Peach State of Georgia, we're happy to see Miss Cody's and Mr. Brown's classes. Hello to everyone at Cooper Middle School in Austell. And in the Keystone State of Pennsylvania, we've got Miss Durbin's class with us from Lancaster. Centerville Middle School is here and awesome. French ballerina Victoria d'Auberville likes to bring ballet to unexpected places, so she was invited by the captain of an Antarctic cruise ship to perform on its bulbous bow. Surrounded and framed by ice and icy waters, the scene was so surreal, so captivating, and so risky that as it went viral, some questioned why the stunt was performed, and some speculated it was enhanced with artificial intelligence. It wasn't, though d'Auberville did train for it and had to contend with everything from the cold to the different motions of the cruise ship. She might have put her era best foot forward to raise the stunt bar while avoiding a fish dive, but to put it in belayman's terms, it's easy to chassé. It's not something people should fondue at home, even if your center is in a place as grand as the Antarctic. You always want to keep two working legs on terra firma so the turnout is cabriole. Good, y'all. I'm Carl Azuz. Stay safe out there. You mean the world to me. This is The World from A to Z.